Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel INFY Tech. So in this video we are going to discuss something about how to convert a text file to MP3 file using Amazon Polly with GoLang. So Amazon Polly is a service provided by the AWS, basically that is a text to speech service that uses deep learning technologies to synthesize speech that sounds like a human voice. So that this particular AWS Polly will help us to create speech enabled products easily. So we are going to synthesize the speech. We are going to pass in a text file to our Go program, and that Go program uses this Amazon Polly service, and that is going to synthesize the speech to MP3 file with a given voice type input. So that's what we're going to achieve it today. So before getting started, you need to have some basic AWS configuration according to the AWS SDK for Go version 2 package. So you need to do some configurations. So for all the default configs, so make sure you have .aws folder under your home directory. So now go to that .aws folder and make sure you have these two files. One is config and the one is credentials. In your config file you are going to have your AWS region being set up, and in your credentials file you are going to have your AWS access key and your AWS secret access key. So and I am also going to show you how you can specify your config and how you can specify your credentials. So you can specify your credentials file, open your credentials file and have your AWS access key ID and AWS secret access key. You can define in this way and paste in your actual access key ID and actual secret key access key over here. So and how can you get this AWS access key ID or secret access key? What you have to do is you have to go to the IAM console, go to the security credentials tab. Make sure you have an IAM user, not the root user. So log in with the IAM user, come to the security credentials tab and click on create access key. So once you click on create access key, you will be getting an AWS access key ID and AWS secret access key. So you can paste in those two secret keys, and in this syntax you can have that in the credentials file. And for the config file you can specify your default AWS region. So open your config file, paste in this, and in this region you can have your US East 1 or US East 2 or US West 1 or US West 2 according to your specifications, or you can give your default region. So in my case my default region is US East 1 for this video. So why we are doing this? So we need this config or credentials in order to programmatically access AWS services from the console or from your SDKs. So that's why you will be needing this config or credentials to access the services programmatically and or via the AWS SDK. So now let's get started with the program, so that you can pass in the text file to our program and convert that text file to an MP3 file using AWS Polly. So now before that we would be needing some dependencies as well. Be needing some dependencies to be installed in your project. So I will show you what dependencies you need to install. So basically you would be needing these dependencies. One is the AWS, one is config, and one is service/Polly, which is coming from the AWS SDK Go version 2 package. What you can do, you can go to the console, type in the command go get, and just paste in the package name. So similarly you can do the same for all the other two packages. So I've already installed these three dependencies in my project, so I'm not going to do it now. So these three dependencies you will be needing one is the actual AWS, one is the config to load the config from your system, and the actual Polly service to interact with the AWS Polly service programmatically. So now let's get started with writing the code. So before that, let me define the struct called AWS service struct, okay, which is going to be of type struct. So, and you're going to have a Polly client. So this Polly client will be responsible to interact with the Polly. So this is going to be of type Polly.client. So this is coming from this package Polly. Okay, now we have this AWS service struct ready. Now we are going to write in the actual method, which is going to set text to MP3. So basically this takes in the file name as input, okay, of type string, and this is going to have a receiver type or the calling type, you could say. So you can say AWS service of type AWS service. Okay, now let us try to read the contents of this file. Okay, what are the file which we are getting to this method? We are going to use a package called IOUtil. Okay, IOUtil.read file and pass in the file name. So this read file method can return us bytes and the error. So it could return us the file contents or the error. So if there is, let us do the error check here as well. If there is any error, let us print it to the console. Error while reading the file, and print out the error. So now we have the contents. So what we have to do, basically, to the Amazon Polly service, we need to pass the string as the input, then it will return as the actual output audio stream that could be converted to the MP3 file. So this contents I'm going to convert it to the string. So I'm going to use the method this string. I'm going to pass in the contents. So this string will return us a variable which is going to say file string. So this file string variable has the contents in the form of string. Now let us use our AWS service, call the Polly client. Now call the method called synthesize speech. So this particular method will be responsible to take in the input and produce the output as the audio stream. So this takes in the context as the param, and the second param is going to be the synthesize speech input. Now let us define that. We are going to say synthesize speech input, and so that is going to be a struct, hopefully, Polly dot synthesize speech input. So this synthesize speech input takes in some params. One is the output format is going to be types dot output format MP3, and it is also going to take the text as input, and that is going to be the type is going to be the pointer to string. So I'm going to use the method aws.string and pass in the file string, and the third param is going to be the voice type or the voice ID. So I'm going to pass in the types of voice ID Aditi. Okay, so you can pass in there are different voice IDs. So those voice IDs could be these constants. So these are the different voice styles. It could be male or female or any other things. So I'm just passing the I want to pass this Johanna. So let us do that. So let us do voice Johanna. Okay, so I pass in the voice ID. Now we have the speech input. Now let us pass in this speech input, synthesize speech input. Okay, now we are ready. This synthesize speech would return as the output or the error. So it could be output okay, let us say synthesize output or the error. So now let us do the classic error check. So error while synthesizing the text. Now print out the error. So now we have the output. So this output is of would be of type audio stream. So let's say we have got the output from the AWS Polly service as the audio stream. So but you need to convert that audio stream to an MP3 file. So before creating it to the an MP3 file, you need to create an empty MP3 file. So now we are going to create an empty MP3 file. So to create an MP3 file, you would be needing a name to that file. So that that name of the file I'm going to create from the same file name. So now we are going to use a strings package and call in the split method, pass in our file name, and you're going to split it with the string. So now we are going to get a names. This split will return as a slice of string. So this name slice will have the file name split into two separate parts. So we are going to say name is going to be names of 0, the first element in this slice, and the file name is going to mp3 file name is going to be name plus .mp3. okay, I hope you understand what is happening here. So let's say we have the input file as a poly.txt. This poly.txt will split it into two different things, poly comma text. We are going to pick up the first element in this slice, which is poly, and that is going to be poly.mp3. So our mp3 file is going to be poly.mp3. Now we have the mp3 file name. So now we are going to copy the now we are going to create this mp3 file. okay, we are going to use the os package, and we are going to say os.create the mp3 file name. So this create method could return as a file. We are going to say mp3 file out file or the error, and let us do the error check here as well. Error while creating the mp3 file. okay, now we have the mp3 file which is of type file. Now we are going to use the io.copy method. So this copy method takes in the writer. So our destination is going to be the mp3 output file, and the actual content to this file is going to be the output from the AWS Polly service, and we are going to have the audio stream here. So synthesize output.audio stream contains the actual audio from the Polly service, which does the text to speech. Now we have the io.copy. This io.copy might return as an error as well, so let us handle that as so. Error while copying the stream content. So that's all, and also make sure you close the mp3 output file, mp3 out file dot close. So that's all. This is the method which is required to convert your text file to an mp3. Now let us have the main function and call in the our method. So now let us load the AWS config, load default config, and pass in the context. okay, this might return the SDK config or the error. Let us do the error check. Error while loading AWS config. So once we have the config, let us create this struct. Okay, you can say AWS service equal to AWS service check. First um, let us first create a poly service. Let us define the poly client in this struct. You can say poly dot new from config. So our config is going to be SDK config. Okay, so you can use this AWS service and call in our text to MP3 method and pass in the file name which I have here, poly.text. This poly.text will contain this text, so this text will be converted to MP3 file. So I'm going to pass in the file name. Okay, so let us use this. And what's the error? Sorry, you have to use this. Okay, so that's all. Let us do one thing. Let us make sure that this method might return an error. So return, if there is any error in this method might return an error. Let us do the classic error check here as well. If there is error, or you can say error while doing AWS Polly, otherwise you can say success. You can say success MP3 is created. Okay, so that's all. Basically this is what you would be needing to convert a text file to an MP3 file with AWS Polly. Basically this is what you would be needing to do. Now let us test this program and see if we are having any errors or not. You can say go run main.go. Yeah, it is saying success MP3 is created, and just remove this variable so that we don't have null being printed it in the console. Yeah, now let us go to our directory and you can see the file poly.mp3 is being created. Let us open this and try to play.
Hello AWS Polly. I am Gopher from GoLang.
Yeah, you can see this particular text. Hello AWS Polly, I am Gopher from GoLang is being played as an MP3
Hello
file.
AWS Polly. I am Gopher from GoLang.
Yeah, so I hope you got the output. So with this you can build a speech text to speech products. Maybe you can write an API, take the text as input from that post API, convert that text to speech and return the MP3 file as the response to your front-end clients. So basically this is how you can use AWS Polly to convert your text file to MP3 file with GoLang. That's all. Thank you for watching this video.